20 most hated 1970s bands. The 70s was a wild ride for music, with bands that divided opinions and left lasting marks on rock history. Some you can't help but love, while others, well, let's just say they're unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Which 70s bands do you think deserve more love or deserve to be forgotten? Let's talk! Genesis. Genesis, a band that stirs up passionate debates among music fans. For some, they're legends of progressive rock. For others, their later work is a far cry from their glory days. You'll easily find online lists and blogs pointing out the worst Genesis songs, showing just how divisive their legacy is. The truth is, Genesis evolved drastically over their long career. In their early years, they were trailblazers of progressive rock, known for their complex compositions, deep lyrics, and dramatic live shows. This era featured Peter Gabriel's mysterious vocals and Phil Collins' incredible drumming, with both members showcasing serious musical talent. But by the late 70s, the band took a new direction, leaning toward a more commercially friendly sound. Some fans argue that Genesis peaked in the mid-80s, with Phil Collins taking center stage and producing hits like Invisible Touch. Others, however, feel this shift marked a betrayal of their roots, moving away from the intricate, thoughtful music of their early years into pop tunes that seemed simpler and less profound. So, is Genesis still rocking? The answer depends on who you ask. If you're into the rich, layered sound of progressive rock, their early work will likely be more your style. But if you're drawn to catchy, feel-good anthems, their later albums might be more up your alley. Regardless of where you stand, one thing is clear. Genesis's impact on music is undeniable. They've been around for decades, and their music continues to spark both admiration and debate among fans. The Buggles. Did the Buggles help shape MTV, or were they just another imitation of the Fab Four? This British duo, with Trevor Horn handling bass and vocals, certainly left their mark on music history. The name The Buggles came from Horn's oversized glasses, which made him look a bit like a bug. And some critics weren't too impressed, calling them poor man's Beatles. But whatever you think of their name, there's no denying the Buggles made their mark with the iconic song Video Killed the Radio Star. This track holds a special place as the very first music video aired on MTV when the channel launched on August 1st, 1981. How fitting that a song about the impact of new media was the one to kick off a new era in how we consume music. But the road to success wasn't easy for the Buggles. They faced multiple rejections before landing a deal with Island Records, which happened to be the label of Trevor Horn's girlfriend. Even then, they had to rework the song to get it just right. In hindsight, that extra effort paid off, and Video Killed the Radio Star became forever linked to the birth of MTV, back when it was all about music videos, not reality TV. Although the song became a worldwide hit in 1979, it wasn't until MTV began playing it that it truly gained popularity in the US. Sure, Video Killed the Radio Star is undeniably catchy and iconic, but some of the Buggles' other songs? Well, they lean more toward the high-energy electronic vibes you might hear during an epic arcade game boss fight. Despite their somewhat hit-or-miss catalog, the Buggles undeniably contributed to music and TV history, capturing the spirit of a changing era and playing a key role in the visual revolution that shaped how we experience music today. Edison Lighthouse. Edison Lighthouse, a British pop group active from 1969 to 1977, took their name from a historic landmark, the Eddystone Lighthouse, an offshore structure off the coast of Plymouth. Although they were around for several years, the band is mainly remembered as a one-hit wonder, thanks to their unforgettable tune, Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes. Ironically, lead singer Tony Burrows left shortly after the song's success. Adding to the intrigue, Burrows didn't own the rights to the band's name, so Edison Lighthouse continued on without him, though their later music didn't enjoy the same commercial success. Despite their brief moment in the spotlight, Edison Lighthouse holds a special place in the hearts of those who remember the pop scene of the early 70s. Love Grows remains a classic, with its catchy tune and romantic lyrics still loved by many. Surprisingly, the band still tours today, keeping the spirit of their short but sweet career alive. While they may never hit the same heights of fame again, Their continued presence in the music world proves that, in a way, there's still room for love to grow for this resilient group. Bo Donaldson and The Heywoods. Bo Donaldson and The Heywoods, a British pop group, had a brief moment of fame with their hit, Billy Don't Be a Hero. Though the song was supposedly inspired by the American Civil War, its release during the tail end of the Vietnam War tied it to that conflict in the public's mind. The song became their only chart-topping hit. The song's theme is heavy, warning a loved one not to get caught up in the heroism of war. But, oddly, the music behind it is upbeat and almost cheery. This strange contrast made the song feel out of place to many, as if the serious message was being trivialized by the lively tune. For some, this mix of upbeat melody and somber lyrics felt off, and the band was criticized for poor taste. The tonal clash made Bo Donaldson and The Heywoods one of those bands people either loved or hated. Some listeners connected with the song's catchy tune and its plea to avoid unnecessary heroism, perhaps offering an escape from the harsh realities of the era. Others, however, found it disrespectful, especially with the lingering wounds of the Vietnam War still fresh. This controversy overshadowed their career, and Billy Don't Be a Hero became a bittersweet legacy. A song both remembered for its popularity and criticized for its perceived insensitivity. Morris Albert. Morris Albert, the man behind the 1975 hit Feelings, is a name that evokes strong reactions, usually of the "please make it stop" variety. This vague love song, which is all about, well, feelings, leaves many listeners wanting more, but not in a good way. While some might have a soft spot for it, most people would probably rather see it disappear forever. Feelings has been a target for jokes for decades, with its sappy melody and generic lyrics inspiring countless parodies and memes. Despite its international success, Albert never really made it big in the US, although he did maintain a loyal following in his native Brazil. But Feelings wasn't just unpopular, it was also the center of a legal mess. In 1988, French composer Lulu Gastet sued Albert, claiming that the melody of Feelings was plagiarized from his own composition. Gastet won the lawsuit, adding even more controversy to the song's already tarnished reputation. In the grand scheme of things, it might be best to forget Feelings ever existed. But if you're curious to see what all the fuss is about, just remember that there's a reason it's become a punchline. And even the subject of a lawsuit. What's your favorite or least favorite 70s track that always sparks a debate? Kiss. Kiss, a band that's as famous for their wild stage shows as they are for their music. Known for their raucous hard rock, they turned every concert into a spectacle with explosive pyrotechnics, flamboyant costumes, and those iconic makeup designs. Their shows were more than just concerts. They were an event. They built their legacy on simple, catchy tunes with driving rhythms, anthemic choruses, and lyrics about rebellion, love, and, of course, partying. While their live performances were legendary, their studio recordings didn't always capture that same raw energy. Their breakthrough live album, Alive, for example, was heavily overdubbed to create the electrifying sound that they became known for. This led to debates over how live their live shows really were. Their lyrics were also divisive. Some critics dismissed them as shallow, repetitive, and juvenile. Others embraced their straightforward rock and roll attitude, appreciating the unpretentious fun of it all. And we can't forget about their over-the-top stage antics. Smoke, fake blood, pyrotechnics. Kiss was never afraid to be theatrical. Whether you loved it or hated it, their commitment to being larger than life was undeniable. At the forefront of it all was Gene Simmons, the band's frontman and ultimate character. His stage persona, dramatic kabuki-inspired makeup, spiked boots, and that famous tongue, was a force to be reckoned with. To some, his theatrics were ridiculous, even laughable. Critics often argued that his showmanship was a crutch, distracting from the band's musical talent. But here's the thing. Who's to say a band can't connect with their audience through a little bit of drama and camp? Kiss proved that sometimes it's the spectacle that makes the music even more unforgettable. Captain and Tennille. Captain and Tennille, just hearing their name brings to mind a very specific image. Plush velvet, disco balls, and a song about muskrats. Yep, muskrat love, the unforgettable earworm that's stuck in many people's childhood memories. It's that song so bizarrely catchy it's hard to shake off, even as adults. And once you've seen furries in Times Square, those nightmares become even worse. Originally, the song was going to be called Muskrat Candlelight, but can you imagine if they'd gone with the even more bizarre Muskrats in the Dark? That's enough to send anyone running. Ironically, Captain and Tennille didn't even write the song. They just covered it from Willis Allen Ramsey's original version. But here's the real kicker. How did this duo end up performing Muskrat Love for Queen Elizabeth at the White House in 1976? Seriously, who thought that was a good idea? Gerald Ford, you're definitely to blame for this one. Not exactly a smooth move, right? Captain and Tennille weren't just a musical act. They were also a married couple who lived their lives in the public eye. They were partners both on stage and off until 2014, when they announced their divorce after 40 years of marriage. Looks like even the most iconic duos can't escape the inevitable. Or maybe it was Muskrat Love that finally tore them apart. The Ramones. The Ramones, a band that's synonymous with punk rock's raw energy and rebellious spirit. They weren't just a band. They were an unstoppable force that forever changed the music landscape. Imagine them on stage. 4 guys in identical black leather jackets, jeans, and sneakers. They looked alike, they moved alike, and they played with a ferocity that felt like it could tear the place down. Dee Dee, the bassist, would yell his signature 1, 2, 3, 4 before each song, giving the audience a split-second warning before the sonic blast hit. Then Johnny, the guitarist, and Tommy, the drummer, would explode into high-octane music that practically knocked you off your feet. On stage, they were a family, loud, fierce, and fully invested in every note. But offstage, things weren't as harmonious. Johnny, the quiet guitarist, and Joey, the charismatic singer, barely spoke to each other despite being the founders of this iconic sound. Though their live shows were chaotic and filled with energy, the Ramones didn't always get the respect they deserved. Many in the music world wrote them off as a one-hit wonder or a fleeting novelty act. They were seen as a simple, limited band with little musical depth. But history has since proven that the Ramones' impact was anything but superficial. They were the driving force that kicked punk rock into gear and influenced countless artists who followed. Rupert Holmes. Rupert Holmes, best known for the inescapable Escape, the Pina Colada song, is the perfect example of how one hit can sometimes define an artist's entire career. Do you like pina coladas? Because that song is going to haunt you, even if you're not a fan of the drink. And fun fact, Holmes himself actually dislikes it. While many people enjoy the catchy melody and cheesy lyrics of Escape while lounging by the beach with a pina colada, there's no denying that there's a fair number of people who really can't stand it. Shockingly, Holmes did have another hit in the 80s, but after those 2 singles, his chart success fizzled out. It's like once you've scored big with a song about a tropical drink, breaking free from that legacy is no easy task. But don't write him off just yet. Holmes found success in a completely different field, Broadway. Believe it or not, this one-hit wonder went on to write and compose the Tony-winning musical, The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which won 5 awards, including Best Musical. Now that's a career pivot. And you have to imagine that somewhere in the celebration, there was probably a pina colada or 2 involved. Because what's a Tony win without at least one tropical drink to toast the moment? The Pretenders. The Pretenders, a band celebrated for their raw energy, Chrissie Hynde's powerful vocals, and the tight musical chemistry between the original members. They burst onto the music scene in 1978 with hits like Kid and Brass in Pocket, securing their place in the hearts of many fans. However, their journey was marked by tragedy. In 1982, the band lost their talented guitarist, James Honeyman Scott, followed by bassist Pete Farndon in 1983. These devastating losses, combined with struggles with drug addiction and the difficult task of replacing key members, led to a shift in the band's sound. As the band went through multiple lineup changes, their music, though still recognizable, began to lose some of that original raw edge. Chrissie Hynde herself admitted that the quality of their performances declined, attributing it to the loss of her original bandmates. The pressures of maintaining their stardom and the toll drug abuse took on the group. The Pretenders never really faced outright hatred, but there was a sense of disappointment among some fans. Many felt that their later work didn't live up to the brilliance of their early days. The groundbreaking debut set high expectations that became hard to meet, especially after enduring such significant personal and professional setbacks. Thank you for watching. To continue with more content, comment 1 to let us know you're still following. Grand Funk Railroad. Grand Funk Railroad, or simply Grand Funk, stormed the music scene in 1969 from Flint, Michigan, with a sound built on the strength of a powerhouse trio. Mark Farner, a multi-instrumentalist who took on vocals, guitar, keyboards, and harmonica. Don Brewer, a drummer with a relentless beat who also contributed vocals. And Mel Shacker, the bassist who laid down tight, driving grooves. Their popularity soared in the 70s with massive hits like We're an American Band, I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home, and their bluesy rendition of Some Kind of Wonderful, originally by the Soul Brothers 6. But despite their success, Grand Funk became an easy target for critics. While hatred might be too strong a word, the band never received the same critical acclaim as other contemporaries. Why? Their music. Critics often dismissed it as simple, even calling it dumb. Picture your older brother, the prog rock enthusiast, rolling his eyes and telling you to turn off that stupid Grand Funk album. Their hard-rocking, straightforward style, with its powerful rhythms and no-frills lyrics, wasn't exactly the choice of the cool crowd. But despite this criticism, Grand Funk's influence on hard-edged rock music is undeniable. They helped lay the foundation for bands that would come later, groups that embraced raw energy and simplicity. They were the band your older brother thought was uncool, but in the end, they helped shape rock music in ways that would resonate for years to come. Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath, the trailblazers of heavy metal, crafted a sound that forever altered the music world. But beneath the dark, heavy riffs and Ozzy Osbourne's captivating vocals was a tumultuous journey full of struggles and tension. As the band evolved and experimented with their sound, creative differences became more pronounced. These tensions, a common challenge for any band, were especially amplified within Black Sabbath. Members clashed over the direction of their music, leading to rifts that only deepened with time. Adding to the turmoil were personal struggles and the destructive effects of substance abuse. Ozzy Osbourne, the iconic lead singer, battled addiction, particularly to cocaine. The emotional and financial strain of his addiction weighed heavily on the band, fueling more conflict and discord. Black Sabbath was undeniably a powerful musical force, but they were also a deeply human story. They faced the challenges that come with creative collaboration, personal growth, and the darker side of fame. While they revolutionized rock music and birthed a genre that would reshape the musical landscape, they also had to confront their own inner demons along the way. The Carpenters. The Carpenters, a name that immediately brings to mind soft melodies, delicate harmonies, and Karen Carpenter's angelic voice. This brother and sister duo, consisting of Karen, 1950 to 1983, and Richard Carpenter, born 1946, left an unforgettable imprint on the music world with their unique sound. Karen's rich contralto voice was the heart of their music, while Richard's talents as an arranger, songwriter, and producer shaped their iconic sound. Their blend of pop, rock, and orchestral arrangements set them apart, winning the hearts of millions. Over their 14-year career, they released 10 studio albums filled with timeless classics. but not everyone appreciated their style. The Carpenters' music, with its soft arrangements, subtle electric guitars, and Karen's ethereal vocals, sparked controversy. While some embraced their unique fusion of pop and rock, others couldn't stomach it, even sending hate mail to express their dislike. Ironically, this very polarizing style became their strength. Their refusal to fit neatly into one genre allowed them to appeal to a broader audience, attracting fans who might not have otherwise gravitated toward pop or rock music. The Carpenters' music was more than just beautiful tunes and soaring vocals. It was a reflection of their distinct creative vision and musical genius. Their sound continues to captivate and divide listeners today, proving that sometimes the most unique styles are the ones that provoke the strongest reactions. Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent, a name that brings to mind hard-rocking riffs, powerful vocals, and a polarizing persona. He launched his solo career in 1975 after his time with the Amboy Dukes, with his self-titled debut album featuring the iconic Stranglehold. This 8-minute track, with its bluesy guitar solo and Meatloaf's distinctive vocals, became a defining moment in his career and shot him to fame. Nugent's music is undeniably packed with energy and raw power, with a signature bluesy feel that resonated deeply with rock fans. His early albums were full of that electrifying sound. But as time went on, some critics argue that his later work lost that spark, becoming more formulaic and lacking the edge that made him stand out. However, it's not just his music that sparks debate, it's his controversial views. Nugent is known for his outspoken opinions on guns, politics, and social issues, often stirring heated discussions. His pro-gun stance in particular has drawn criticism, with many accusing him of being insensitive and out of touch with the times. Bad Company. Bad Company, a band that brought hard rock to the forefront of the 70s music scene. With powerhouse vocals from Paul Rodgers, skilled guitar work by Mick Ralphs, and Simon Kirke's driving drumming, they had all the ingredients for success. What's even more interesting is that they shared the same manager as Led Zeppelin, Peter Grant, two iconic bands of the era under the same roof. Bad Company had their share of high energy, loud tracks that got people moving. They developed a distinctive sound that earned them a devoted fan base who loved their hard-rocking style. But like many bands, their success wasn't built to last forever. While their first 3 albums, Bad Company, Straight Shooter, and Run with the Pack, topped the charts both in the UK and the US, they often faced criticism for not offering anything groundbreaking. Their success seemed more like the perfect combination of the right time and sound, but not something that would redefine music. After disbanding in 1982, Bad Company reunited for a few projects over the years. Unfortunately, with Paul Rodgers facing health challenges, it seems unlikely they'll get back together again. Which 70s band do you think is unfairly hated and deserves a second chance? The Misfits. The Misfits weren't just your average punk band. They were something far more unique, a fusion of horror, humor, and raw energy that left a lasting imprint on music. As pioneers of horror punk, they boldly delved into the dark and macabre, weaving tales of monsters, brutality, and chilling sci-fi themes into their songs. Their music wasn't just an anthem of youthful rebellion. It was like a sonic horror film, played at breakneck speed. But it wasn't all shock value. The Misfits had a sharp, twisted sense of humor, a wit that made their music as entertaining as it was terrifying. They knew how to balance these elements, creating a sound that was not only distinctive but also undeniably captivating, even if it left you a little unsettled. This mix of horror and humor became their signature style, but as time went on, some began to question whether they should evolve. Was it ethical to keep exploring the darker side of humanity through their music? The Misfits pushed boundaries, embracing the shadows and defying societal norms. Their music made them a powerful force in punk rock. But like any band that challenges limits, they also faced criticism and ethical dilemmas. Despite that, their influence on music and culture is undeniable. Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin, a name that represents rock royalty, iconic riffs, and unforgettable live performances. But behind the legendary music and dazzling stage shows, there was a much darker side. While their musical genius was undeniable, their behavior offstage often sparked controversy. Their concerts were known for their chaos, with reports of violent incidents involving their staff, management, and even some of the band members. Things took a much more disturbing turn when a journalist assigned to interview them came forward with allegations of sexual assault, casting a long, dark shadow over their legacy. Adding to the controversy were the accusations of plagiarism. From the very beginning, critics and fellow musicians pointed out the striking similarities between Led Zeppelin songs and those of lesser-known artists, particularly black musicians who had never achieved the same fame or fortune. This pattern of alleged borrowing continued throughout their career. While taking inspiration from other artists is common in music, Led Zeppelin's refusal to acknowledge their sources or offer credit only fueled the anger from those who felt wronged. Imagine the frustration of the musicians who felt they were robbed of the recognition and earnings they deserved. Jimmy Page especially kept a tight silence on these allegations, which only fueled the controversy and further damaged the band's reputation within the music community. Despite their towering legacy, Led Zeppelin's darker moments remain an undeniable part of their story. REO Speedwagon. REO Speedwagon, a band that achieved massive commercial success, selling over 40 million records and reaching diamond status. They were a huge force in the 80s, but their journey to stardom started back in the 70s. While their music resonated with millions, not everyone was on board. A major point of contention? Their lead vocalist, Kevin Cronin. His nasal singing style, though unique, was a turnoff for some listeners, even though he had a powerful voice that helped land hit after hit on the Billboard 100. But it wasn't just Cronin's vocals that drew criticism. The band's lyrics often faced scrutiny for being shallow or inconsistent. A prime example is Take It on the Run from their 1980 album High Infidelity, a song telling the confusing story of a man dealing with his girlfriend's alleged infidelity. The lyrics were all over the place, making it a bit hard to follow. Despite these critiques, REO Speedwagon carved out a major place in music history. While they may not have been seen as groundbreaking, their catchy tunes and high-energy performances made a lasting impact. They appealed to a broad audience, even if some were skeptical about the depth of their lyrics or Cronin's distinctive voice. The Eagles. The Eagles, a band that sparks intense reactions with fans either loving them or hating them. There's no middle ground. Some view them as American icons, the essence of classic rock, while others believe they're a band best forgotten. This divide in opinion speaks to the power of music to evoke strong emotions. Some critics have even gone so far as to label the Eagles the worst rock and roll band ever, with one article in Billboard even declaring, "Glenn Frey's death is sad, but the Eagles were a horrific band." So, what's behind the hate? Why do some consider them the worst? The criticisms are varied, often tied to personal views. Some take issue with their lyrics, accusing them of glorifying excess and drug use, portraying a carefree, hedonistic lifestyle. Others question the depth and originality of their music, suggesting that the Eagles were more focused on commercial success than artistic expression. Of course, there's a strong argument that a band's personal lifestyle and views shouldn't overshadow their music. After all, music is about expression, a way to communicate ideas and connect with listeners. It's about the feeling and the experience, not just the personal life behind the songs. Yet, the Eagles' image and the controversies surrounding their personalities did cast a shadow on their legacy. While their music was commercially successful and resonated with many, it wasn't universally loved. They weren't rebellious, they didn't push boundaries, and they weren't about shocking anyone. They were just musicians making the music they enjoyed. Whether you love or dislike them, one thing is clear. The Eagles' impact on rock and roll is undeniable, even if their legacy remains a subject of fierce debate. The Doors. The Doors, a band that wasn't just about music. They were a cultural force, the voice of a generation searching for change and questioning everything. Their music was raw, poetic, and carried a sense of rebellion that resonated deeply with those who felt alienated and restless. At the heart of the band was Jim Morrison, their charismatic frontman, who was a poet at his core. With lyrics exploring life's darker sides, death, sexuality, and the mysteries of the unconscious, he captivated audiences. The band was often seen as hedonistic, but they were also pioneers of a countercultural movement, challenging societal norms and pushing boundaries. Their sound, a mix of rock and roll with spoken word poetry, deeply connected with the generation seeking something different, something outside the mainstream. Yet, like any groundbreaking force, they had their critics. Many dismissed their music as too dark, too unsettling, or even immoral, accusing their lyrics of being confusing or aimless. Despite the criticism, the Doors' impact on both music and culture is undeniable. Their influence can be felt in the work of countless artists who followed in their footsteps. With their raw energy and thought-provoking lyrics, their music continues to inspire and spark conversation, even decades later. Did I miss any bands you think should be on this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, check out more in the series. Don't forget to subscribe and share Past Not Past with someone who loves 70s music. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.